Thought this was fitting. This video is brought to you by Bad Wolf Sake. If you know, you know. So, Rumble Nation by Hobby Japan. From 2018, in the game market in Japan, this was the grand prize winner. Now, why have you never heard of this game? Because it hasn't been picked up outside of Japan. Frankly speaking, I don't even think they're making any more copies of this game. This is the game right here that told me that I could like area control style games. Dudes on a map-esque, if you will. I mean, full disclaimer, I'm horrible at them. I think the only game that I've won of them is El Grande. This game, however, was the first one, even before El Grande, that I said, wow, it sort of shone the light, if you will, and what this mechanism could offer in the first place. This game is not a very complex game. In fact, you can play this game in under half an hour. It's probably the quickest area control game that you can play. That still has very significant, meaningful depth, but also a high degree of replayability. I got this on a whim after watching one playthrough video on Board Game Geek. I have seen only 2 other copies, I think, come up on Board Game Geek, and both have been in auctions, and both have been buy it now'd almost right away. That right there, again, is going to be probably the biggest limitation, is if you want to get a copy of this game, you're going to have to scout for it, and you're going to have to keep your eyes peeled wherever. I would suggest subscribing to the Board Game Geek page, and subscribing to any time someone puts it in a geek list or puts it up for sale. That might be the only way that you're going to find a copy otherwise. There is no secondary market. So why do people like it? Why is it that hard to obtain? Because especially games that are low volume, if the game isn't any good, you can still find copies on eBay. You can still find copies on sale on the Board Game Geek, sale page. You can still find copies on auction every once in a while, or Facebook, or whatever. But you can't with this. It's really non-existent. Let me tell you a little bit about how this game plays and why I enjoy it so much as a person who does not like area control in the first place. First off, I want to give them a kudos too, because a lot of these international games right now are doing this. They're putting in English copies of rules, and not all the Japanese games are known for that. So the fact that they have this is excellent and just makes it all the easier to get it to the table. The other thing that needs to be said about the Japanese games in general, if you're not familiar with them, I'll give you just a brief overview, is most of them tend to be very small box games. These are not big box games in any sense. And even then, it tends to take up not very much space within the box itself. So there's not a lot in there. The insert you can see is relatively big even for what it is, and half the stuff fell out and there's still plenty of room. So if I was to take the insert out, there would be a lot of room in the first place. But it's just a beautiful box as well. You can see that they actually colored the insert. They made an image in the insert to match the coloration on the outside of the box. Just, an extra added touch that a lot of games don't go for. That's just nice to see. It's not something that's going to make or break things for me, but I like seeing it. Now, with the Japanese games, a lot of them, it's higher production costs because they're making them over there, and there is not as big of focus on the bling or the deluxeification. They just don't focus on components being the end-all, be-all of a lot of games. They aren't big on miniatures. They aren't even big on deluxe components in any sense. They go with what works, the tried and true. So what do we have here? We have a bunch of wood cubes. You're going to be using wood cubes. Everybody has colored wood cubes, and you've just got some cardboard chits. I mean, it's nothing, tremendous. You've got 3 little small white dice that are more than serviceable. So nothing extravagant. So I'm going to show you the board here, but I'm going to then switch over to more of an overhead view so you can get a sense of what you're actually doing. So you can see that the board is not that big. You see here that there's only 10 areas on the board. That corresponds to the 10 numbers that you're going to be able to roll on 2 dice combined. Why is that important? Well, let's take a look. So as you're rolling these dice on the board, in each of these 10 areas, you're going to have numbers 2 through 12, which represent the various sums of 2 dice that one can get on any one dice roll. As I mentioned before, you are going to be rolling 3 dice every turn. What you're going to be doing with these dice is something I have not seen. And again, this is the cleverness that I have seen consistently in the Japanese board game designers. Just these twists and these variations that they are so good at. Take 3 dice, you take the sum of 2 of them, and then the other individual die determines how many guys you put down. Very simple and straightforward, right? So, in any one turn, when you have 3 different numbers, you have a possibility of 3 different placements that are in front of you. And you're also allowed to reroll ones. All 3 dice, though. You cannot just choose to reroll one of them. Now, why is this game different? It sort of has, I guess, if you will, a little bit of an El Grande feel, because what areas are valuable can shift and change depending on the game. Like I mentioned, numbers 2 through 12 appear in these circles on the board. And this setup is completely random and variable from game to game. This is directly related and influences the end game scoring. How so? You start off scoring the area the lowest number and working your way up to the area of the highest number. So you are going in numerical order. The first area to score on the board will be the one with the value of 2. If you have the most men, or cubes of your color in that area, you get that large marker. You get the number of the die sum that it was. You get the 2 points. The second place person in that area gets the half number, rounded down. So they would get 1 point. Not such a big deal at the lower numbers. When you start to get to the higher numbers, then there becomes more of a discrepancy between first place and second place. So you can start to see how the points add up already. Now, here is the other clever twist in this game that differentiates it. When you are the person who has the most cubes in one area, when you score that area, what happens is you get to spread your guys to neighboring lands that you already have presence in. Think of an outbreak in Pandemic, if you will. It takes that, only does it in a positive way in this game. So if I am in this area with the number 2 as the first area that is scored, if I touch these other 3 areas and I have presence in them, I get to put a guy in each of those areas. Now, this is also where the white cubes come in. The white cubes are neutral cubes except for at the end of the game. During the gameplay of when you're placing your guys, you have a finite amount. So when you are out, you are out. But in the end game scoring and the proliferation to the other areas, you are not limited. Meaning these whites become part of your army. And so you can have more than just what is out there to begin with. And so it's a cascading sort of effect. Because you might be able to take a territory towards the end of the numerical line that you were not doing as well in, win a few of the provinces that touch it prior to that, and have proliferation into that zone, and all of a sudden get some points or even win the area outright that you were not even winning when the game initially ended, if you will, in terms of the placement. Now, there's 2 other important points that you need to know about this game. Sort of 2 other twists that make this game unique, that give incentives, but also disadvantages depending on what is important to you and how you want to use them. One is there are strategy cards put out at the beginning of the game. 1 plus the number of players that are out there. Now, why is this important? Is these are one-time use. If you chose to forego placing guys down on your turn, you can grab one of these cards and immediately use it. Why wouldn't you just wait until the end? So the trick is, and this ties into the second twist, is that with these cards, which allow you to manipulate guys on the board, both your own or other people's, sort of like El Grande, if you will, these cards cannot be used and become immediately unavailable once the first person has laid all their cubes on the board. So you say then, okay, well, Chris, we're all just going to lay cubes one at a time, and we're going to go super slow and super methodical, and that's going to be fine. Well, the one thing I haven't addressed, if you've been paying attention, is the fact that if you are in an area that has the same amount of cubes, you have a potential for a tie, right? Wrong. So why would you want to be the person that gets out first? Is because then you get one of these little sword tokens. And if you are the first person out, you get the token with the most swords, which means in case of any ties, you automatically get first. You beat anyone else in a tiebreaker. So you're trying to balance being the first one out, being able to see what everyone else is doing, but also being able to time the use of one of those strategic cards, because you can only do it once per game. This all matters because once you are out, you are out. The other people continue playing around the table until they are out as well. So they are going to be able to see where all of your pieces already are, and you are not going to have a chance to move them. So that puts you at a disadvantage, but it also gives you an advantage. So which is more important to you? We found out the hard way the first time or two we played through this game how important these were, but also how important it was to be able to put down in 2 or 3 or 4 turns in a row your guys with other people not having the ability to shift their focus because they were already out and they were in too much of a hurry to put theirs down in the first place. So you're trying to balance that dichotomy on a sword's edge, if you will. So do I like this game? If it's not already evidently clear, yes, I absolutely love this game. I have never won this game in the about dozen times I've played, and I love it. It's one of those type of games. I can lose and feel happy every single time I played it, as happy as you can be with losing, I guess, if you will. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think also value-wise, like I said, I don't think I would have any problem selling this on the secondary market right now and making money just by how scarce it is. So if you do come across a copy and this interests you at all, it's going to be, pull the trigger, or you may have already missed out. I wish this game would get distribution. Someone would pick up the rights to it or the ability to publish it over here in the US. Because I think this has the potential to be just a breakout star in terms of an easy, accessible, quick, family, light, strategic, all of those categories. Just broad mass market appeal. You slap, a Leader Games or a Stonemaier Games on this, and this is a bestseller. So yes, I highly recommend this. But again, it's not going to be for everyone. If you don't like the little bit of randomization that is with the dice rolling, as much mitigation as you have with the ability to choose 2 and 1, or even reroll, you're not going to like this. If you aren't a big fan of area control, this might change your mind like it did for me. It might not. But for me, it was worth it. And I'm happy that I got it. I don't plan on ever getting rid of it. So there you go. And that is Rumble Nation from Hobby Japan. Thanks for watching. See you around. Stay classy out there.